Hi and welcome back to part 2 of our European road trip.
In part 1 we travelled from home to the Black Forest in Germany and had 3 great, if a little wet, days there.
And on this leg we continued on through Switzerland to Lake Como, where in glorious sunshine we had 3 days of magical experiences. So we're just queuing up to go into Switzerland. We've had 3 wonderful but rainy days in Germany, and we're in a crossing called Koblenz in southern Germany, and we're expecting to hand over our passports, but I think this is the point, so we should say Guten Tag, Switzerland! We've stopped in a tiny village just off the motorway called Quinto, but sadly there's no retail outlets, so my 20 Swiss francs are still here. But I am damn sure I'm going to spend them before we make it into Italy. Oh, there's a person. What if I could give it to him? So we're still travelling through Switzerland. We've been through, I don't know, 50 little tunnels. But we're now in one called the Gotthard Tunnel, which is unbelievably 19 kilometres long. And we're just in a steady flow of traffic going through it. I'm intrigued to see what the landscape's going to be like when we get to the other side, because it was still very green as we went in. But yeah, 19 kilometres. We've got about, how long we got to go, Teach?
About 8.
8 kilometres left. So let's see what it's like when we get to the other side. Here we are. It must have taken at least 10 minutes, if not 15. And here we are, the other side.
And it looks exactly the same.
It looks exactly the same as
Except
it did.
it's a huge construction site. It's horrible.
It's the same as it did 19 kilometres back. We do really need somewhere to stop so that we can say that we've spent a little bit of time in Switzerland, and also spent the 20 Swiss francs that have been burning a hole in my wallet for the last 3 months since I realised we were coming. No, sorry, when did it come on?
Oh, yes, about 5 years ago.
Oh, what a shame. I've had this about 10 years. I visited on business 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a day.
And I thought one day I will spend this.
Yeah, I can send. Sorry.
It's a souvenir now.
Yes.
I'll pay by card then, please. So we finally arrived somewhere in Switzerland. So this is called a Locarno, and it's on Lake Maggiore, I think it's pronounced. So it's a lake that's split between, at least between Italy and Switzerland, and I think possibly even France as well, but I'd need to check that.
It's not very beautiful.
It's not very beautiful down there. That's all the Italian and Swiss water companies that obviously do their deposits down there. But unfortunately, as you just saw, I wasn't able to spend my 20 francs, so I'm absolutely gutted. Buongiorno!
Buongiorno, Italy! We're making our way to our accommodation on Lake Como. Due to traffic, the sat-nav has taken us off route, so to speak, and Steve is manoeuvring us around the tiniest streets, and we're really high up as well. He's doing splendidly. This place is completely...
There weren't barriers before.
This place is mad.
This is a serious hairpin.
But it's wonderful already. It just feels great, and it's so much warmer here as well than it was this morning when we left Germany.
Feels like we left Germany about 3 days ago. Lake Como is in northern Italy, just over the border from Switzerland. We had 3 nights here, staying in the small, fairly non-touristy town of Liana, and from there we were able to explore by ferry the 3 main tourist draws on the lake: Bellagio, Menaggio and Varenna. And on our last full day there, we hiked south to Mandello and then caught the ferry back.
Train to Varenna. We hope it's on its way now. after some delay. He's waiting expectantly. Can you hear the little bell? It's really cute. Hallelujah!
Bellagio is probably the most popular and busiest of towns and is referred to as the Pearl of Lake Como. We arrived on a ferry jam-packed with plenty of backpackers and families from all over the world. A beautiful day with deep blue skies showcased expensive flashy hotels and shops which lined the steep cobbled streets. We'd been advised to get there as early as possible, but the delay to our train meant that we arrived at the same time as most other visitors, including those on day trips to the lake itself. The shops, cafes and restaurants were as pricey as they were overcrowded, and I could really tell that Sledge wasn't enjoying himself. The flowers on the promenade were in full bloom, so we strolled along the avenues in an attempt to leave the crowds behind. It's one of those must-see places and definitely worth a visit. Tip, go as early as you can.
Here we have Steve the Explorer in Menagio. We've come here after spending a couple of hours in Bellagio, and actually it's so much more chilled and so much more our vibe. Just as beautiful, if not more beautiful. So I think we're going to spend some time here this afternoon.
Varenna is a smaller, peaceful town on the eastern shore of the lake. It was the final place we visited on our way back to Vienna, and we had an amazing meal at a restaurant in the Old Town Square. There's a boardwalk which takes you alongside the shore and which leads to the Old Town. It's definitely less touristy, and we loved our time there.
Today we're doing a walk, and it's a path called the Via Andante, which seems to run for most of the, well, at least half the length of Lake Como. There's one option that goes up quite high into the hills, and we're doing the lower level version, going from Liana, which is where we're staying, down to hopefully what's going to be a nice town called Mandello. We're probably about a third of the way along. It's as quiet as you could imagine, absolutely beautiful, brilliantly marked. Only an idiot could go wrong, I'm going to say at this point. And probably end up being that idiot. Mandello didn't detain us long, but it did have a ferry dock, so we hopped on and went back to Liana. Ferry network that operates all over the lake, going mostly actually from the main town to the top end of the lake around Bellagio. You can get a €15 hop-on, hop-off pass, which we did, which I think worked out economically very well. We did 3 trips. We may have ended up paying more, but it was good to have that. What we managed to get today though, which I would absolutely recommend to anyone, is a ferry that starts in Lecco, goes up to Bellagio and stops in every single town on the way. So you're effectively getting a free tour of the lake for free. It costs €7.60 for 2 of us, so for €3.80 you get to go backwards and forwards along the lake, and it's just wonderful seeing the little towns on the way. This is about as far as either of us have got in terms of swimming in Lake Como. I've still got my shoes on, But it is actually pretty warm, and if we'd had more time we would have gone down to the beach, which is just down there. It's just 9 o'clock, still light and still beautifully warm. So that wraps up 3 wonderful days we had crossing Switzerland and touring Lake Como. Stay tuned for part 3 when we finally make it to Slovenia.